we're going to talk about MyTax Illinois today, and just to give, if you're unfamiliar with it, MyTax Illinois is available at our website at mytax.illinois.gov, and the word Illinois is completely spelled out. And this is just a free online account management program offered by the state of Illinois to provide a centralized location for users to file their returns, renew any licenses, register for tax accounts, make payments, review correspondence, and generally just manage their accounts. Now, MyTax Illinois is utilized by 3 different agencies: the Illinois Department of Revenue that I represent, the Illinois Department of Employment Security, and also the Illinois Liquor Control Commission. So if you're trying to do anything with any of those 3 agencies, you should be able to do that with MyTax Illinois. And to do most of those functions, you are going to have to create a login. But some functions are available without creating a logon. Now, I will say for most people, it is for businesses, and that you can create a MyTax logon same day. It just requires answering a few questions, just like you would normally any other website that you're trying to create an account with. If you are trying to do it specifically for an individual, you would need a letter that has a letter ID that is active within the last 90 days. If you haven't received a letter from us, you can request that through our website. The first thing, as far as the new things that are coming up, is that retailer's discount cap that Jane had mentioned earlier. And just to recover that, that discount, taxpayers may claim a maximum discount of $1,000 per month, and so that cap has been added into MyTax, especially if you're filing those ST1s and other period-based returns. It would be limited at $1,000 per month. So if you're a monthly filer, it'll be capped at $1,000, $3,000 per quarter if you're a quarterly filer, and then a maximum of $12,000 annually if you are an annual filer. But that minimum of $5 does stay in place for those annual filers. We will continue to issue guidance in regards to the administration of the discount that can be claimed on transaction returns. So that's that ST556 and ST556 LSC. Be looking for that in the future. And along with that, those ST556 and ST556 LSC will no longer be able to reduce that tax by the amount of the retailer's allowance. IDOR will now calculate the discount on those returns through a monthly reconciliation process. So unlike the ST1s and other ST forms where we're just putting a cap that can be claimed, that line is no longer will no longer be on the ST556 LSC, and that process will get more fleshed out as we provide additional guidance in the future. One of the things that we often get questions about is having access to clients or other people's information. In a situation in which a taxpayer has a representative that they would like to have access to their own account, each parties, the client and the representative, should both have their own MyTax Illinois passwords and logons. The representative will then need to request third-party access to their client's account. This is a process, but it really does help keep everything organized and everybody having the information that they need. And some of those benefits is that as the representative, you have a single logon, so you only have one username or password to access all of your client list, instead of having to maintain a list of username and passwords for everybody who's on your client list. And then the client themselves maintains the freedom and ability to see and manage their own tax information. One of the things that we often see is, for whatever reason, a client chooses to change representatives, but then they call in and are wanting to create a MyTax account or have access to their information, but they don't have that information because we already have a MyTax Illinois account, so they can't create a new one. So we have to go through the process of shutting that down and creating that. They don't necessarily need a power of attorney on file, but the client does need to just allow full access to that person instead of limiting access like they can otherwise. The client, the first thing that we're going to do, and this is from the client perspective, so there's up in the right hand corner there's going to be a symbol. One is for client and one is for representative. So just to keep things straight, and so we know who we're looking at and whose account we're looking at. Right now, we're going to look at the client's account. So when they get signed in the upper right-hand corner, and you can kind of see a screenshot of that there, the client will need to allow third-party access from their account. As long as their account says that they are not allowing third-party access, it does not matter how many times from your side of things as the representative, it will not let you, and you'll just receive information saying that that has been disallowed. So you may need to work with your client, and this is kind of that process to be able to allow third-party access. In the upper right-hand corner, it'll say welcome, and then it'll have their name. And then just under that, there is a link that says manage my profile. And they will need to click on that link in order to access the page to be able to change that information. When they click to the next page, there are 3 different tabs, Profile, Action Center, and then More. They will need to access that More tab. So they will have to click into that 3rd tab where it says More, ... And then down there is an Access Management panel. And there it gives a bunch of information of things to do, but we're specifically looking at that 3rd one where it says Manage Third-Party Access. If they have a bunch of things, you can also use that filter there where it has the magnifying glass and says, what are you looking for? They could simply start typing in third-party access and it's going to limit it. So just that link shows up. When they get to the next page after they've clicked that third-party access, they will see in that information says these settings determine if accountants or third parties can request access to your accounts and what level of access they are initially given. If not allowed, they will be prevented from requesting access to your accounts. And this is really for that client's benefit and safety so that they know that their information is safe except for people that they want to have control. So where it says allowed, it defaults to no. So they will need to change that to yes. So all they have to do is click no, and then they will be asked, are you sure that you want to allow third-party logons? And then they just need to simply click yes. It'll change that to yes. It'll show the default access as third party. And then down below there, it says default account access, and this is information. That default account access, it defaults to file, but it would need to be changed in that case where the client just wants you to have access to everything. That would need to be changed to full access. And there really are 5 different access types. And this file that it defaults to, this only allows access to file returns. So if you had third-party access to file only, you'd be able to go in and file returns, but you wouldn't be able to see letters. You wouldn't be able to respond to notices. You wouldn't be able to make payments. You wouldn't be able to do all that. It's simply limited to just filing that tax return. File and pay expands it a little bit. It does allow you to file returns and pay balances, but you still don't have access to seeing letters or responding to those letters. Full access is where that really, you can do everything and you're acting as if you are the taxpayer. With that, you can file returns, pay balances, you can respond to notices, you can see letters. You have the same amount of access that that client would when you're accessing it. Pay only allows access to pay the balances only, so you wouldn't be able to file returns. So yeah, some of these are more if you have split tax departments and different things that you're going. And then view, that just allows you to view the account only. You can't actually interact with it. You can just kind of see what's going on in that account. So that was from the client's perspective and getting it to where they have yes. Now, if you as the representative are walking them through this process, once you get connected, I would have them go back and change it to no, just as an added security measure, because as long as it's yes, anybody who has the correct information would be able to connect to them. So just for an extra layer of protection, I would say have them, after you know you're connected, go back and change that to no so that there's that information. So you as the representative, and now we're in that representative, you would sign into your account. And then we're going to go to the same place in the account. Underneath where it says welcome and then the person's name, you're going to click that manage my profile link again. You're going to go to more. And then instead of going to manage third-party access, you're going to go to add access to an existing tax account. This is where that'll allow us to choose what information we are trying to access. Once you click that link that says add access to an existing tax account, there will be a drop-down menu. In that drop-down menu is all sorts of different tax types that we offer and are connected to MyTax, that are in MyTax. And so you just need to choose which one that you're going. Every single tax type has a different set of questions. So on the page, you can see this is if you were trying to access their withholding income tax information. You would need their FEAN plus their sequence number, the account zip code, and the last payment that was made to the Illinois Department of Revenue for that tax type. And as I said before, gaining access to a taxpayer's individual income tax requires some additional information. And that has, and that would be a notice that has been sent to the taxpayer within the last 90 days. So if they have gotten a return correction notice, final notice of tax due, things like that, most of those letters will work. If it's, there are certain collection letters that will work, but it is not as wide a swath as if you're just doing the normal like return correction notice and those other letters. But it does need to be within the last 90 days. If the taxpayer doesn't have a notice that was sent out within the last 90 days by IDOR, they can go to the main page of our website at mytax.illinois.gov, and then there is a panel that says request a letter ID. And that letter ID is, they'll enter a few pieces of information, and then they will get a letter in the mail with that letter ID on it, so they can create an account. So those usually take 7 to 10 business days to get through. Once all those questions have been answered and you click submit, it's going to give you a confirmation, and it just says congratulations. It gives you a confirmation number. It tells you when the date that was submitted and the time. What type of access you can see by those buttons down there that you can print the confirmation. You can just hit OK and it'll get off that page, or you can print or save a copy of your request. That is really up to you and your own personal record keeping information. There will, even though in the account you'll have access to see that you made the request, once you hit OK and get off this page, you can't get back to this particular page. So if that is important to you, go ahead and you can print that confirmation, and you can print and save a copy of your request to have that information. So just because you've submitted that, there still has to go through that approval process. So it may have been submitted, but it's not fully granted until you receive an approval email. And that's kind of an example of one is here on that, on this next slide. it'll say basic information, your request to access the MyTax Illinois account, and we'll have the specific account name. As third party, in this case, has been approved. It may also say one that is denial. There's one of each depending on how that is set up. If it's approved, all you need to do is go back and sign into your MyTax Illinois logon as the representative. It will have a client list in there, and you can be able to access that information. If it's denied, you'll need to contact the client and make sure that their MyTax Illinois account is set to allow third-party access. And once they get that, you can try again. So the next thing that we are going to talk about is the identity verification response within MyTax. This is something that we deal with all the time. We get calls all the time about people needing to respond to those identity verification letters that the department sends out. So there are 3 different types of identity verification letters. The first one is the identity verification quiz. The second one is the code, and then the third one is the documents. With the quiz, the taxpayer has 90 days to respond. Before taking the quiz or trying to respond, they need to collect the ID verification letter that they were sent, the Social Security number or IIT or ITIN of the primary filer. And in this case, the primary filer is really just the first person listed on the letter. So if it's someone who filed married filing joint, whoever's listed first on that letter is the one that they will need the Social Security or ITIN of. The Illinois driver's license or state ID of that person, and then a current and prior year's tax return for taking the quiz. That just sets you up for better success to have all that information there. When it comes to the code, this is the easiest one. The recipient has 90 days to respond. The code is provided on the letter, and they just have to go in, answer a few questions, provide that code, and then that takes care of that if they receive that code letter. The final one is the document upload. They can respond whenever. It doesn't have that 90-day limit, and just so that you can always respond through the document information. So if your client or you or whomever realizes that they didn't respond within that 3-month window, they can always go and use that letter to upload the documents, but they would need the documents based on the categories to be able to get that on. And if they don't feel like they could answer the quiz or that other information, they can use the documents. They will need 2 forms of identification from the provided categories on the letter to be able to upload that. So just some basic information on the identity verification information. Why did IDOR send this letter? And really that's just to protect the recipient and their identity. This is a safeguard to prevent others from using their identity to file a false tax return. And what was the return selected for additional review? We received an Illinois individual income tax return filed with their Social Security number or individual income identification number, so that's the I-10. And to protect their identity, we are just require them to verify information to ensure that they are the individual who filed or requested that this be filed on their behalf. If you received that, just respond to the identity verification letter at MyTax Illinois. It does not require creating a MyTax Illinois account. In fact, those letters won't even let you create a MyTax Illinois account from those identity verification response letters. MyTaxIllinois.gov, you can go down to the individual income tax identity verification panel. It's usually the second or third row, but depending on your screen size, if you have it on full screen, whether you're using it on a mobile device, it will may format differently. So one of the easiest things is kind of just under the main top part of the page, there's that magnifying glass. You can start typing in identity verification and it will just limit it to that. The other thing that they can do, if they are wanting to do it on a mobile device, there is a QR code on each of those letters, and they can just scan that QR code and it will take them immediately to the page that they need to. Now you can see in the image there, it says the individual income tax identity verification, and then underneath it says quiz code and documents, and you just use the appropriate link. So the first thing we're going to look at is that quiz. So before completing the quiz, gather the information that we spoke about before. Some things to note: there is a time limit to complete the quiz. If it times out, it is considered a failure. It must be completed in one setting. There's no way to save the quiz and come back to it. And if you fail the quiz for any reason, you may attempt a second try. However, the system may not have enough information to establish a second quiz. So if it says that you can't try that quiz a second time, it's just that there's not enough information to create a second one. So if any of that, they would need to either respond by uploading the document, using the document method with that letter, or they could manually do it with the Illinois 425, which is the verification form. Once they sign in, they're going to see this identity verification quiz. It's going to have all that information listed of the things that they need to set up. Once they hit next, they'll be able to enter the 10-digit letter ID on the letter. It will begin with the letter L. And you can kind of see down there in the bottom right-hand thing of the screen, it says letter ID L, and then I'll have a series of numbers. And so that is that letter ID that they will need to be able to submit their information. The next set of questions wants you to enter the last 4 digits of the Social Security number, or I-10, of the primary filer. And again, that primary filer is just going to be considered whoever's listed first on the letter received. So you would put that in and confirm it. And then you will need to mark the appropriate information. So did you file this state tax return? You're either going to mark, yes, I filed the return myself. Yes, I authorized someone else to file a return on my behalf, or no, I did not file this return and need to report identity theft. Once one of those is marked, you will need to enter the amount from your Illinois 1040 return for the tax year on the letter. If there was no refund, you can enter 0. So if you owed a balance, you would 0 because it's looking for the amount of the refund. So you're going to enter the refund amount from line 38 of the Illinois 1040. Do not include any refund that you were expecting from the IRS. Sometimes we have issues with people wanting to use their IRS one or putting those together. Once the form is completed and there will be further instructions regarding the quiz, just follow those instructions and complete the quiz. And again, if failed, you can use the documents uploader to submit that. The next thing we're going to look at is the identity verification response code. This is again the simplest one that we can do. You'll receive a letter. It'll have the verification due date on there. This one says December 10th of 2024. It'll have some information. You can use that QR code and it'll take you directly to that verification code if you're using a mobile device. And then it just says verification code IL, and then we'll give the code needed. So you would just do it, and you're going to answer some questions and put that code in. So when we go in there, the first thing we're going to do is enter and confirm the last name of the first person listed on the letter. Then you're going to put in that verification code that was listed. You're going to confirm that verification code, and that just ensures that you're putting that in there and didn't accidentally type the wrong thing. You're going to answer that same question Did you file this state tax return? Yes, I did. Yes, I authorized somebody else to do it, or no, I did not file that and need to report identity theft. The next thing, and then you're going to put that refund amount from line 38. Once you get all that information, you're going to hit submit, and that completes the code. The last thing that we're going to look at is the identity verification documents for this section. So you're going to need to enter and confirm the letter ID that was on the letter. And then you'll need to, again, answer that question. Did you file the state tax return with those 3 answers? Down at the bottom of that page, it has add. The add link will allow you to upload the requested documents. And then when it has that pop-up window, you'll use the drop-down menu to indicate what document type is being submitted. You'll add a description of that document, and you'll choose the file button to find that document on your computer to be able to upload it into there. And once you get all that in there, you're going to hit OK. This is a pretty standard process for most systems when you're adding a file to things. The next thing we're going to look at is the 2 different categories. So category 1, it is a document that has the recipient's photograph and full name. So that's going to be like the Illinois driver's license, and it should be current or expired less than 1 year. A driver's license from any other state, and we do require that one to be current. It cannot be expired. A state identification card, a passport, military ID, government issued photo ID, U.S. high school, college, or university photo ID, employee photo ID card with a recent payroll stub, and a valid photo of a third-party designee. Category 2 is a document that has your full name and complete address used on your Illinois tax return. So this could be a utility bill, a bank statement, payroll stub or W-2, property tax bill, a rental agreement if you rent, a college or university transcript, an insurance policy, and that can be a vehicle, homeowners, renters, health, life insurance, as long as it's an insurance policy, credit card statement, death certificate, birth certificate, anything like that will fit into category 2. Once those have been added, you can see there under the attachments, you can see the type, the name, the description on there. If you realize that you pulled in the wrong one, you can hit that remove, and then you just re-add that process. So once you've added the thing from both categories that you're going to do, and all that's in there, you can hit submit. The identity verification, I think if you lost that identity verification letter or unable to complete the response electronically for any reason, we would ask you to submit the Form Illinois 425 Identity Verification Documents form that is available on our website at tax.illinois.gov. And that would need to be sent to the Illinois Department of Revenue Anti-Fraud Unit, P.O. Box 19049, Springfield, Illinois 62794-94049. And that's basically the manual option of that document uploads. It's got things for both of those categories. You fill that information out, mark what you need to mark, and then send that to us, and we'll be able to process it to review that identity verification response. The next things I'm going to go over are just some inquiries for individuals that allow us to do a little bit of research. If you don't have a MyTax Illinois account, but you still want to know some information like payments that you've made, things like that, we'll be able to go through that. So we're specifically looking at the inquiries for individuals panel on the first page of MyTax Illinois. And that has 5 links that you can use. Where's my refund? Look up my estimated extension payments, look up my Form 1099-G, the Illinois PIN inquiry, and look up my volunteer emergency worker credit certificate. With each of these, you will need to fill out certain information to be able to get that information. But they are good resources if you're needing, hey, I forgot what estimated payments I made last year, or you're wanting to double check what we have on file. The first we're going to look at is where's my refund. For this, you're going to need the social security number or I-10 of the individual or yourself. There is a drop down menu, drop down there to choose whether you're choosing a social security number or I-10. And then you're going to need the Illinois refund amount from line 36 of the Illinois 1040. One thing to note is this really will only work for the current tax year. So when we open filing season for tax year 2024, this is only going to work for your 2024 filed tax return. It won't be able to do prior years. If you amended the return, this won't provide an accurate response. If we sent out a return correction notice, it won't give you anything past you responding to that letter. So this really is just for, I filed my current year tax return and I need to know what information is going on with it. The next thing that we are going to look at is the look up my estimated extension payments. Here you're going to need to have the SSN, and then you're going to need the first four letters of your last name. If your name is Lee and it only has three letters, just use those three letters. Don't worry about trying to find a fourth letter to fit in there. But if your last name is four letters or longer, just use those first four. Then you're going to choose the tax year. And so that's either going to be the current year or the prior year. So you mark that and then hit search. And then if we have any, it will respond to it. The next one we're going to look at is the look up my form 1099-G. Now this is specifically only the 1099-G that the Illinois Department of Revenue issues. So this wouldn't be for like the Illinois Department of Employment Security that you need that 1099-G at the end of the year for your taxes. This is only going to be based on if the IRS required that, based on your situation, that we issue a 1099-G showing your overpayment from the prior year. With that, you will need to have the taxpayer ID, which is the SSN, A10, or I10. And then again, the first four letters of your last name. If your last name does not have four letters, just put all the letters there. Then you'll just hit search, and it will come back with that information. The next thing is the Illinois PIN inquiry. If you need your Illinois PIN, if you've received a letter from us, that PIN is also your account ID. But if you haven't received a letter for us and you need that PIN for any reason, you can you'll just need your social security number. You'll need an Illinois driver's license number or Illinois state number or the prior year's adjusted gross income from line 1 of the Illinois 1040. In that drop down, you're just gonna mark which one that you're gonna use. For most people, the Illinois driver's license number or state ID is gonna be the easiest option because most people have that available, whereas they may not have that prior year's adjusted gross income available. Now, if you are an out-of-state resident and doesn't have an Illinois driver's license or state ID, you would need to use that prior year's adjusted gross income. And then just mark that you confirm that this information is associated with your social security number and click the search button and it'll look for it. The last thing is look up my volunteer emergency worker credit certificate. What you need here is the taxpayer ID, so SSN, A10, or I10. Currently, it only allows for the volunteer state fire marshal identification number. That will change, as Mary Beth mentioned, when IEMA is going to be brought into this. That information will be brought in and be updated based on new programming. And then you can do the tax year. So this year, you could look for, if you hadn't filed your 2023 return, you could look at that up for the amount in 2023. You could also look it up for 2024 once we get to that file in January. The next thing we're going to look at is some additional functions that are fairly useful. The first one being submitting a power of attorney. You can use MyTax Illinois to upload it as a single PDF using the appropriate link at mytax.illinois.gov. You can also send a power of attorney in as an email. You're going to attach it as a single PDF and send it to rev.poa@illinois.gov. Just one note, sending information via email is not necessarily secure. So the MyTax Illinois option is the most secure way of doing that. You can use a fax machine. You can send it as a single fax to 217-782-4217. If you were going to do that, don't worry about putting a cover page on it. We don't need that cover page. And also don't combine multiple POAs into one fax submission. Send those separately so we can keep those separate. And then finally, you can do it via mail through the Illinois Department of Revenue. Power of attorney forms, mail code 3-252, PO Box 19001, Springfield, Illinois 62794-9001. If you're near one of our walk-ins offices, you can also just walk it into one of our district offices, but those are the 4 main ways to get that to us. So we're going to look specifically at uploading that through MyTax. So you would need a valid power of attorney, and that can be uploaded. We will accept the Illinois 2848 and any of its attachments, the Form Illinois 56 and its attachments, and the multi-state power of attorney. When we are looking at additional services, we are looking at that middle link that says IDOR power of attorney submission, and you can upload that there. So the first thing that you need to do once you click into there is choose which tax form you are submitting. So whether it's that Form Illinois 2848, the IL56, or that multi-state power of attorney, you just choose the option that you're using, and that will arrange the information so we know what we're getting when we open up the submission. You're going to enter the primary name or the business name of the taxpayer for whom you're submitting the power of attorney. And then you're going to choose the ID type. So if it's for a business, you're going to use the FEIN. If it's for an individual, it will be the SSN, and that includes sole props if they file through their social security number. You're going to put in that ID number, and you're going to confirm the ID number. And then if you choose the SSN option, you'll have to put the SSN of the primary individual on it. It will open up a thing that says, is this for a joint return? You can mark yes or no. If you mark yes, you're going to have to enter the spouse's name and the spouse's SSN and confirm that. Otherwise, if you hit no, there's no further information right there that you'll need to submit. And then you need to put in the email address and the name of the person submitting the power of attorney. Whoever's put there is the person that IDOR will contact if the power of attorney submission has been approved, or if we require additional information to approve that. And then down at the bottom, we've got another attachments area. You just click add, go through that process and get it attached. Reminder, submit it as a single PDF. This is not programmed to be able to accept multiple taxpayers. It's not a bulk option. You don't need to put a cover sheet in that PDF, and only one client in submission per and spouse purpose. The Illinois 2848 and IL56 can be found for download at tax.illinois.gov. If you go under forms and then miscellaneous forms, you can find those power of attorney. It's got the Illinois 2848 and the subsequent forms A and B to be able to fill out that information. If you need the multi-state power of attorney, it is going to be found at mtc.gov. That is, while we accept the form, we're not the creators of that form, so any questions regarding that particular form would need to go through the multi-state tax commission. So then once you get all of that information in and all the fields completed, we're going to hit next. And then it's going to say the upload completed, IDO or power of attorney is requested to be submitted. You just hit submit. If you realize that you added the wrong document, you can hit previous and fix that. Otherwise, hit submit. And then you'll need to put in an email, confirm that email, and hit OK. And then you'll be shown a confirmation page indicating that the request has been submitted. This information will not be emailed to you, so we recommend that you print or save that information for your records to know when that was submitted and everything. The email address is simply so we have a way to pull it back up if we need to find it. The next thing that we're going to look at is responding to a notice. This is a login function of MyTax Illinois. So if you're submitting a response for a client, you'll need third-party access to their MyTax Illinois account, and you do need full access to be able to respond to a client. If it's just file or pay or anything like that, it won't give you that access. So currently we allow you to respond to business income tax, individual income tax, and withholding income tax notices. We've had this individual income tax we've had for a few years. Business income tax and withholding we added last year, but there are a few updates. Beginning with the new year, you'll be able to respond for withholding to the LTR 101 error notice response and the LTR 102 notice of claim status. So both of those are ones that we currently don't allow, but beginning with the new year, you'll be able to respond to those letters as well. And we're always looking to improve that process. So in that, so the current way that you would be able to access that is when you're signed in. When you're under the tax panel, you're going to hit view more account options to find that response link. There will be a panel that is the letters and messages panel. This is where you can view account letters, view account messages, anything like that. But there will be a third option that says respond to a notice. Once you click there, it is going to have a list of all the available letters to respond to based on our ability to that. So there's going to be the column that says view, and this simply allows you to do that. You can look at the letter, but that's not where you're going to respond to it. That second column is the respond column. You'll just click the respond next to the letter ID that you're trying to respond to. And then over in the last two columns, it has the letter type and the filing period, just to ensure that you've got the right letter you're trying to respond to. So once we've clicked that respond link, it will open up to a new page. We'll have information on there. It has a subject and a message, because this is basically creating a kind of email is the best analogy to have it. In the message area, it pre-pops that says, I am responding to the notice I received from the Illinois Department of Revenue. If you feel that additional information needs to be there, that is an editable field, so you can do that, or you can just leave it to there, but it does need something in it, or else it will error out. And then down at the bottom, you just need to hit add attachment and complete that information. And again, you're going to put it in a description, and you're going to hit choose file to be able to do that. Once you get that added, you're going to hit OK. We will have the acceptable file types are .pdf, Excel spreadsheet, a Word doc, JPEG, PNG. So it will take images. We won't accept an Excel that has macros. That's what that .xlsm and the .docm is a Word document that has macros embedded in it. And we also do not accept PowerPoints explaining why there was an error. So just the easiest way is honestly just switch it over to a PDF, upload it, we can get, and then the maximum file size is there, that 50 MB. Once that's added, down at the bottom, if you need to delete it because you realize you used the wrong one, you can do that. If not, go ahead and hit submit. And then you will get a confirmation screen. And here it says you have successfully submitted your response. You can view your submission by checking your messages out box. We review responses in order that they are received and do not submit multiple responses, as this will only increase the amount of time it takes us to process the response. You will see a confirmation page, and that's what this is. If you need to view the submitted response, it's going to be in that messages out box in MyTax Illinois. And so to do that, just go to that letters and messages panel that we were at before and click view account messages, and then hit outbox, and you'll be able to see that. You'll be able to see the date you submitted it. There will be a link to the letter. You can click in there and it will show what you filed. It'll also show when you sent it to go on there. Once they are brought into the system, it does put a stop on the account until we have a chance to process it. And those are worked in the order in which they came in.